1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Swift Guitar Lessons for routine number 8 of our blues self-accompaniment series. In this session, we're going to be employing some more advanced techniques, including a classic turnaround, alternating bass notes, major and minor pentatonic licks, and even some double stops. I got all the tabs available for you, as always, at patreon.com/swiftlessons, where you can also find the other lessons from this series. Now, let's get started with your lesson. Okay, close look at the fretboard, getting started with routine number 8. This is going to begin with the intro turnaround, something I call a classic turnaround. It sounds like this at a very slow tempo. Okay, so that began on beat number 1 with the low E string open. Then we're going to slide from the 2nd fret G string up to the 4th fret. Alright, then we have the high E string 4th fret as well. Then we're going to return back to the G string. Alright, that'll get you just about up to beat number 3. So far you have. One more time. Alright, then on the 3rd beat, we're going to take the 3rd fret of the G string and the high E and slide it down to the 2nd fret. Then strike both strings open. Alright, we're almost through the measure. Back to 2 and 2, 4 and 4. Then by beat number 1 of the next measure, we resolve back to E. Alright, this is just a little bit of an E major chord. We are hammering from the open G string down to the 1st fret, but we're striking the open E string with it. Okay, now you put that whole lick together. So that time I pulled off to the open strings. You can do it with the pull off or without. Alright, but that's what's reflected on your tab. Okay, next we're going to walk up to the B7 chord. It's going to sound like this. Alright, so we walked 0, 1, 2 on the A string. Then with the B7 chord fretted, I don't need my pinky involved, I'm just going to strike the G string and the B string. Back to the A string, and then back to the G and B. You combine those two measures, you have. Okay, so practice that routine, get it into your muscle memory. We're going to use it again at the end of the routine. Once you have it down, it's time to practice counting as you play. So if I'm counting this out, it's going to sound like this. A 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Alright, that'll take a little bit of practice, a little bit of time. Okay, now you've made it to the beginning of the 12-bar blues. This is going to be the 2nd line that's on your tablature sheet. It's going to sound like this. I'm going to play 4 measures for you, then I'll break it down for you one by one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that began with a pattern over an E7 chord. We're playing it as a D7 shape up a whole step. So some of you might not be familiar with this shape, so let's make sure you got it down. It's the 2nd fret of the D string, 4th fret of the G, 3rd fret of the B, and the 4th fret of the high E string. And it's a pattern, it's sounding like this. we're going to do that twice in a row. So that was on beat number 1, the low E string, and the B string and high E strings. Those high strings again, and that is one end, one end. Then on the second beat, we're going to hit the D string, so it's an alternating bass. Then the end comes back in, so we're going to do another upstroke. And I'm using my pointer finger and my middle finger for that, though some players might be sticklers for technique, might use the middle finger and the ring finger. Okay, so far you have. Alright, then we're on beat number 3, which means it's time for a low note. Alright, then back to the high. Then you're going to drop it down 1 fret, hit the D string, and then those high strings again, the B and the high E. Okay, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and is your pattern there. You need to repeat it. And then on the third time, you're not going to do that descend down that semitone. You're just going to leave it right there in the 2nd fret position. Alright, because up next, we're going to bar the 9th fret, D, G, B, high E string, and put your middle finger here on the 10th fret of the high E. And we're going to do the exact same pattern. Alright, with a different voicing of the same chord. Okay, so double, just the highs, the D string, the highs, the low string, the highs, and the D string. One thing I want you to make sure that you're doing when you're playing through these patterns is that on beats 1 and 3, it's going to be the low E string. On beats 2 and 4, it's going to be the D string. So that kind of reveals a lot of what you're playing here because it's an alternating bass, so it's going to be consistent. Okay, you put all that together, we have. I like to slide up, and I just leave it right there, that D string 9th fret on beat number 4, no upstroke because I need to make it to my A7 transition. Okay, great work everybody. You have the intro turnaround down, and you've also gotten line number 2 down, the beginning of that 12-bar blues, utilizing a very cool Travis style pattern over E7. Now we're getting into the 4 chord, which is A7, line number 3 on your tablature. I'm going to play you these 4 measures, and then I'll break them down for you again, one by one. Okay, so this is going to sound like this. A 1, 2, 3, 4, and... Okay, breaking down line number 3. That first measure again. I started off fretting the G string 9th fret, 8th fret of the B string. On beat number 1, I'm hitting the root, A. Alright, so that's 1. Then I'm going to have N, so I'm going to do those high notes again. 1, N. Then I'm going to go to 7 and 7 and play 2, N. Alright, then I'm going to hammer as I'm barring the 5th frets of the G and B string. I'm hammering and hitting the low E string at the same time. I'm hammering up to the 6th fret of the G string. And then hitting those 2 high notes again. So far we have. Here I am barring the 5th frets. Alright, then the D string, 7th fret. And then 5 and 5 on the B string and high E string, which should already be barred. And once more with the count. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So important that we master being able to count as we play this stuff. Okay, the next measure is going to be basically the same thing, but it's going to be a little bit more syncopated, and we'll throw in a lick. it's gonna sound like this. I think I'll slide up into it. Okay, so I slid up into that 9th fret and 8th fret position. One end. Then, when I go to the 7th fret position, I'm gonna play bass, treble, bass. Then I'm going to do my hammer on with the bass again. All right, then I'm gonna slide down to the 3rd fret high E string, open string, 3rd fret B string, and the high E string open again. Put all that together, we have to finish up that second measure of line 3. Okay, now counting that measure out, a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a. Putting those two measures together from line number 3. A 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a. Okay, then now we're on to the 3rd measure of line number 3. We're just going to reprise that Travis style pattern over E7. Just up to that D string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then beat number 1 of the 4th measure of line 3. A nice short stroke of that E7 chord. I got the thumb on the low E string and I'm grabbing the B string and high E string nice and short, squeezing the hand. Because that's going to get us ready for a really cool lick that we're reprising from a previous routine. Okay, so let's get that down. We're sliding from the G string, 2nd fret, up to the 4th fret, 3rd fret B string, 4th fret G. All right, then we're gonna play high E string, 3rd fret B string, 4th fret G string, as we slide down to the 2nd fret, open string, 2nd fret of the D string. All right, so that nice short stroke, practice that first. All right, then get that little roll, high E string, B string. All right, then we have G string, 4th fret, sliding down the 2, open, 2nd fret of the D string. That's an E note and it's a resolve. Okay, that whole measure there. All right, that time I did a little pull off to that open string and it sounded great. Okay, now playing all of line number 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and a few different ways you can time that lick that'll sound appropriate. Okay, great work everybody. You've gone 3 lines in, now we're on to line number 4. It's gonna get a little bit hairier here, a little bit more advanced. We're going from the B7 chord to the A7 chord, and that's gonna get us into our final turnaround. We're almost through. This part's gonna sound like this. Okay, so it's basically the same lick being played in 2 different keys. Over the B7 chord, I'm grabbing the 7th frets of both my E strings. But I'm gonna bar on the high strings, that way I got the B string too. Okay, sometimes I like to get both strings at once, sometimes I just start off with just the high string on 1. Alright, I got the low E string and the high E string, but not the B string on the first beat. Then on end, I'm gonna grab both high strings. Alright, then I'm gonna grab the 10th fret of the high E string as I grab the root again. 7th fret, 7th fret B string. Alright, be creative with how you use your fingers here on the right hand or on your picking hand, whatever that might be. Alright, that time I switched it up and used my pointer finger for the B string. Alright, then I'm going to grab the B string, 10th fret with the low root again. And I'm going to bend it just a bit. Then the high E string, 7th fret by itself. 9th fret, high E string. Then, timed with the low note, we're going to do a nice Stevie Ray Vaughan trick here. 7 with the low E string is involved as well, hammering up to 8, and then pulling off back to 7. And then I'm going to bend that B string 10th fret once more. You put that whole measure together, we have. I'm going to do the same thing down a whole step. Then I'm going to reprise that beginning turnaround that I've already learned. I'm going to start it off though by hitting 3 strings, E, B, and the high E string. Alright, then everything you learned before in the beginning of the routine. The B7 chord walking up, and then I'm just going to slide up to the 7th fret and play that exact same chord, the B7 chord transposed to the key of E, to resolve this routine. Okay, playing again from that B7 chord down to the A7 and then through that turnaround. Remember, for that B7 to A7 lick, the bass note is on beats 1, 2, 3, and 4, all the number beats. That's what gives it that consistent sound. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the turnaround. And I'll just slide that middle finger up to 7 and strum through the chord. Congrats everybody, you finished routine number 8.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Alright everyone, thanks so much for checking out routine number 8 of our blues self-accompaniment series. I hope you're enjoying it so far. Thanks so much to my patrons for making these lessons possible. I got many more videos coming up, so keep checking back. Please subscribe, please share. This is Rob at Swift Guitar Lessons in Philadelphia, saying happy picking.